Hello BookTube, Sara here and welcome to my channel. Today I'm coming to you with my weekly reviews for October the 29th through November the 2nd. So the 29th to the 2nd of November, 1 week. I can tell you that none of these books actually got finished in November. These were all finishes for October. So between the 29th and 31st, a 3-day period, I finished 6 books. Downtime at the hospital was a bit of a blessing. Let's put it that way. So yeah, you know, you gotta look at the upside of some things, right guys? So yeah, so 6 books I have here to share with you. So let's jump in and get started. So the first one was The Cottage on Pumpkin and Vine by Kate Angell, Jennifer Dawson, and Sharla Lovelace. Contemporary romance, of course. This was originally published in 2016. Average Goodreads rating of 3.39 stars. I only gave this one 3 stars, you guys. Overall, I didn't love this. Like the first story, I think I only gave 2.5 stars to. The second one was a 3-star, and I think the third was my favorite. I think that was the consensus of a lot of people who read this, that the third story was their favorite. That one got a 3.5-star rating from me. And that was the one by, I believe, Sharla Lovelace, who I've read before, and I do like her work, so I was familiar with it. Jennifer Dawson, I think I've read her before, but I haven't actually read Kate Angell. Excuse me. And I have another one of her books. I don't think it was nothing to do necessarily with the writing on the first story. I just felt it was too short. It was the easiest way for me to describe the first. So the first story is about a couple that it's a hate to love story, and it is a novella. All 3 of the stories in here obviously are novellas, but the first story is only, come on, where are you? Oh goodness. Okay, hold on. It's like 80 pages. And the entire book is 330 pages. So that's, you know, a very small amount in this anthology. And like I said, it was a hate to love. To me, the thing is with romance, for those of you who read it, I'm assuming a lot of you read it if you're watching my channel, that you need to believe in the happily ever after. And with the couple in the first story, I didn't believe it. It was more that they were in lust. I mean, it took place over the course of a day, you know? That's a little too insta-lovey when you get those stories too, that, oh, they're madly in love after a day. No, I don't think so. You know, insta-lust I can believe, but again, you're only seeing part of the story. I almost would love the author to pick up the rest of their story. Do you know what I mean? And yeah, that's how their meeting went. Maybe, you know, do a full-length novel of, you know, they kind of went their separate ways after Halloween, and, you know, it's a year later and here's their story. You know what I mean? I think that would be a lot of fun. But at the end of that one, it could have been a prequel. I just didn't like it. The second story was okay as well. It was a friends to lovers story. And the third one, like everybody said, was their favorite. So, I mean, that one I really did enjoy. Very, very sweet. Yeah, I think my overall impression with this book, I did fly through like the last story quite a bit too, as much as I could to get it done, because I've been reading this for far too long, is that it's not what I was expecting. I was expecting sweet romances, and I've mentioned this before in other videos talking about this book. Not that I don't like, you know, the heavily adult books. I do. I mean, they have their place. But I just, for some reason, I don't know what it was, I just didn't expect that from this book. And it was very adult. And the stories, the relationships were very adult and focused on that part of the relationship more than the emotional part of the relationship. Let's put it that way. So yeah, so I didn't love it. Would I tell people to run out and read it? If you want. I mean, this might be right up. I didn't dislike them. I just think it wasn't what I was expecting. But it's a great way to try some extra authors if you want. I think this one is relatively cheap for the Kindle, like if you wanted to pick up a Kindle edition. I know there's a second book in this, another anthology, The Bake Shop on Pumpkin and Vine or something like that, that I've heard a lot of people, it came out this year. A lot of people read it and they really liked it. So maybe it was a bit better than this one. I don't know. But yeah, so there's my takeaway on that one. The next book that I finished was another anthology, a completely different holiday though, was All I Want for Christmas by Wilde, Kathleen O'Reilly, and Candace Havrens. This was, of course, another contemporary romance. The narrator on this audiobook was Julia Duvall. This is Harlequin Blaze number 727, published originally in 2012. Average Goodreads rating of 3.66 stars. I gave this one 3 stars as well. Again, not one I absolutely loved. For my challenges, this was for my Triple RC, the Romance Readers Reading Group on Goodreads, for prompt number 1 for October, which was O for October. I never got to reading A Season with the Witch by J.W. Ocker, unfortunately. I didn't get to it this month, and or in October. And I said it last year, I'm going to say it again this year. I'm reading it next year. And so I needed a book that had O in it. Either the title had to start with O or one of the author's names. And O'Reilly fit the bill. This was 3 cute little holiday novellas. I mean, the Blaze books are not very long. They're typically around 224 pages. So you're fitting 3 stories in there, and they're very short stories, but they were cute. Again, do you absolutely believe the happily ever after? Maybe, maybe not, but they were entertaining. And what I was expecting going in is what I was delivered on. The Blaze novels are adult stories. I knew that going in. You know, I was expecting it. And I like the fact that with this anthology, much like the Pumpkin and Vine anthology, they focus on the same area. So in this anthology, it is about a fire department in this tiny town called Pine Valley. I want to say, sorry, it feels like forever ago that I read it, when in reality it was like a week ago. But each of the stories features, the guy is, the first one, he's a firefighter. The second one, he's an EMT. And the third story, I want to say like the fire chief or something like that. And they all take place over the same night. And they all start at the same place with this burning down of this very famous mansion that the founding family like owned or something like that. So each story follows a different set of characters. So the first one is the fire chief, and she is a lawyer for the guy who has been arrested, which is Santa Claus. Because they found his belt in the house, like his Santa's black belt. And then the second story was about the EMT who was kind of working or helping this woman who was found in the home unconscious, and she now has amnesia. So you're going through that part of the story. And then the third one was like the chief of like the fire department or something like that, and he's kind of having to decorate up for the holidays, plus he's dealing with this whole, you know, fire thing that happened. It was really cute. This story, this book is available as part of the Audible Escape package. So if you just want, I think it was like 6 hours on audio. And if you're like me and you speed things up, you can do that in an afternoon. I mean, it was totally enjoyable, a lot of fun, very festive. And the second story I had a few issues with the whole amnesia thing, because she doesn't remember who she is. And of course the EMT guy doesn't know who she is. And she has a wedding band on her hand. So as far as she knows, she's married. But yet she starts kind of this relationship, if you will, with this guy. And that I had problems with, even though you as the reader know she's not. It's still the fact that the characters themselves didn't know that. And that kind of, that's the one that I gave the lowest rating to, just because of that aspect of it. But outside of that, super cute, really, really enjoyed it. Next up, back to the Halloween theme, you guys, and then we'll be back to the Christmas theme. Where November, it's when we, like, you know, Halloween and Christmas all collide, right? So the next one that I finished was Halloween Party by Agatha Christie. This is, of course, a mystery novel. It is was narrated on audio by Hugh Fraser. Hercule, I can never say his name, Poirot, number 39. This is one of the very late books in that series by Agatha Christie. Originally published in 1969. Average rating on Goodreads of 3.66 stars. I gave this one 3.5 stars. It was fun. Halloween Party, if you haven't read this one. This is only the third Agatha Christie that I've read. Of course, I've read And Then There Were None. Earlier for Thriller-a-thon, earlier this year for Thriller-a-thon, I read Murder on the Orient Express, and now I've read Halloween Party. Hands down, And Then There Were None is still the best Agatha Christie, in my opinion, that I've read, you know, from the limited number that I've read. This one was good. I mean, I'm familiar with our main character, with the detective whose name I can't pronounce. He will therefore from now on be known as that. The guy with the mustache. And he's called in because there is a 13-year-old girl who was murdered at a Halloween party. She was drowned while bobbing for apples. So the story starts off you know, at this Halloween party for children, and then they found this murdered girl, and then he's called in, and, you know, they're investigating the mystery. It was entertaining. It kind of kept me guessing. Yeah, it kept me guessing as I went through the story. It actually didn't have that much to do with Halloween, other than the fact that this girl was murdered at a Halloween party. But it's fun following the detectives in these. I mean, she writes a really, I mean, it's Agatha Christie, come on. She writes a brilliant mystery, and, you know, you're kind of, as the reader, given all these clues. And again, as I've said before, you know, part of the fun is trying to figure it out, along with the detectives and the other characters. There are a lot of characters in this story. It was really good. I enjoyed it. I mean, what did I say? You know, 3.5 stars. That's more than an average rating from me. It's still not And Then There Were None territory, which is still hands down my favorite. I've read that one twice, and both times, like the first time, obviously, I didn't know the whodunit. And when I reread it the second time, I had forgotten because it had been so long. So it was still so enjoyable to reread it the second time because I had, you know, like I said, I'd forgotten. So that one still, I think because of the twists and turns in And Then There Were None, that's what makes that one so good. This one was a good story. I enjoyed it. You know, if you're interested, pick it up. I grabbed my copy from my library. So you know that there's going to be library copies, like audio copies if you're interested. The audio on this was great as well. The next one, let's jump back to Christmas, you guys. The Giving Heart by Toni Blake. This was a contemporary romance novel, narrated on audio by Anne Marie Gideon. Book number 2 in the Summer Island series. Published on, this came out on October 29th, 2019. Average rating of 4 stars on Goodreads, and I gave it 4 stars. Special thanks to NetGalley and the publisher Harlequin for sending me an e-ARC copy of this to review, but I did snag a copy on audio because I needed something to listen to at the hospital, essentially. This one was a really cute Christmas story. I've not read the first book in the Summer Island series. I need to go back and do that, because it tells the story of Meg, which is our main character in this story, Lila, her sister's story. So Lila is spending the weeks between, like, Christmas, or not between Christmas, like the few weeks before Christmas, at the inn that her sister runs on this summer island, which is somewhere up in on Lake Michigan. It's a small island off the coast of Michigan, and it, like, the island doesn't allow any motorized vehicles on it and things like that. So it's a very quaint, charming, small town atmosphere. And her sister runs this, like, bed and breakfast. So Lila's going to stay there just to keep watching it. There's no guests there, but she's just kind of, you know, making sure everything's fine. You know, her sister has a cat, so she's taking care of the cat, stuff like that. And at the beginning of the story, we meet Lila, and we also meet, what's his name again? Beck. I wanted to call him Blake, but it's Beck. He is essentially bulldozing the trees behind this bed and breakfast, or this inn that her sister runs. And she runs out there and pretty much stands in front of the bulldozer like, you can't do this. So, of course, it starts a back and forth between the two of them, because he has now bought the land that he's now going to develop into these very high-end real estate, like homes, essentially vacation homes for very wealthy people. And it's going to ruin the view for the guests of the inn. Even though they don't actually own that land, they just kind of always assume this beautiful forest would be there, but now it's going to kind of be destroyed. So there is a bit of a love triangle in this story as well, with this woman by the name of Susan, who, back in, I guess, in the first book, her and Beck kind of were having a little back and forth. Nothing ever happened between them. They didn't even go out on a date, but, you know, they made it known to each other that they kind of thought each other was kind of, had some potential, if you will. So there is a little bit, not really, of a love triangle where Beck is actually trying to figure out which one he kind of wants to pursue. And Suzanne kind of gives him the choice, or takes away that choice in a way by saying, you know, she's not ready for this or anything like that. Her book is actually the next book coming out. I did go ahead and look, and it's already up on NetGalley to request, and I did request the 3rd book. So fingers crossed I get it. So that would be great. I think it comes out in the spring, either in February or March or something like that. But anyway, getting ahead of myself. So super, super cute story. Really, really great Christmas story. There's another great character in this story named, I think it's Delilah, and she runs, like, the local coffee shop, and she is a hoot and a half. Totally worth the price of admission. She was just a delightful character, and I really, really liked her. Lila, I did have a couple issues with. She tended to be a little childish in a way, to the point of like, you could totally see her in an argument, like hands on her hips, stomping her foot, you know, like that very tantrum-esque kind of an idea. Beck was good. I liked him as a character. He was very sweet. There was a very sweet secondary plot with him and his neighbor's grandson, this little boy that he kind of takes under his wing while this boy's visiting with his grandparents over the holidays. And yeah, great small town Christmas romance. Highly recommend. Next up, another Christmas story, and this was A Cowboy for Christmas by Sara Richardson. This is another contemporary romance. Book number 6, the 6th and final book in the Rocky Mountain Riders series. Now, I have read books 4, 5, and 6, but I haven't read yet 1, 2, and 3, so I have to go back and read the first 3 books. This also came out on October 29th of this year. Average rating on Goodreads of 4.62 stars. I gave this one 4 stars. For my Triple RC challenge, this was for number 5, National Apple Month, which was to read a book that has red on the cover, and there is a bit of red on that cover. Also thanks to NetGalley and the publisher for sending me an e-arc of this one to review for you guys as well. So, I love this. I love Sara Richardson. I've mentioned this before. This book actually, prior to me getting it sent to me by the publisher, I had mentioned this in my anticipated reads for October as a book I was very much looking forward to. So I was so thrilled when the publisher sent me a copy for me to be able to review for you guys. So, a great cowboy romance, honestly, you guys. So this is the story of Darla and Ty. And what I loved more than anything in this entire story was the fact that Darla and Ty are both in their 40s. They're in their early 40s. I'm like, yes, my people. More stories about, you know, people who are older. You know, I don't mind reading stories about people in their 20s and early 30s, but, you know, give me late 30s, early 40s. I think that's fantastic. So Ty has never been married before. He's kind of flitted through from relationship to relationship. Darla was married 10 years earlier, but her husband passed away. I think it was from cancer, if I remember correctly. So she's kind of remained very closed off and does not want to, you know, get into that kind of emotional relationship again because she's afraid of losing that person again, which is totally understandable. You lose the love of your life once, you know, tragically, and it's gonna kind of, you know, affect you for later on relationships. But her and Ty, prior to the start of this book, are kind of having a little fling on the side, a friends with benefits, if you will. And then what happens is 2 of the characters from a previous book, they run a cafe, and the cafe burns down, like at the very beginning of the book. So in order to raise money to kind of rebuild this cafe and help the 2 of them get back on their feet, Darla kind of constructs this plan to kind of do some rodeo days thing within this town. And Ty is, pun intended, roped into it, if you will. And so he agrees to kind of ride in the rodeo, but he's also going to appear in this cowboy calendar that they're going to put out to raise money for the family, which I think is delightful. So the other thing is Ty has a brother by the name of Rhett, and Rhett plays in the NFL. I think he might be on the injured list at the time, like, you know, during the course of this book, which is why he's able to travel to town. So Darla's kind of bugging Ty, like, have your brother come out. It's going to be a huge draw. We can get all kinds of people. You know, we have the celebrity here and blah, blah, blah. So, you know, he reluctantly agrees because he does not get along very well with his family at all. You can definitely tell, and it's sad. Even though he's like I said, he's 40, it's still sad to see that relationship. Like, his parents obviously favor his brother. And you find out more, of course, over the course of the story, which makes it so great. But from what you see at the beginning, this is the situation. The other thing is that he had originally been asked to come home for Christmas by his parents. But because of the very strained relationship with his parents, he didn't want to go. So he lied, saying that he's engaged and he wants to spend like this Christmas with his fiance, just the 2 of them, and then next year they would all join. Like he would bring her out. Well, there is no fiance, and he just figured he'd tell his parents, oh, we broke up like in the new year or something. Well, of course, now he's got to invent a fiance. And who better than Darla? And that's pretty much where the story goes. I loved this so much. Cowboy Christmas romance. Yes, please. You know, there was some great funny parts. There were some really great emotional parts of this book, especially with Darla because she's coming up on the 10-year anniversary of her husband's death. And, you know, like, it was really good. Great, great characters. Even if you have not read any of the other books in this series, pick this one up. You are not going to be lost. You can read it as a standalone. Yes, if you go ahead and read it, you're going to find out who some of the pairings up end up being from the previous books. That doesn't take away from any of their stories either. You can still go back and read those with enjoyment. You know how it's going to end, and I've always said that about romance. You know, the couple that you meet in that first chapter is most of the time the couple that ends up together at the end. It's the journey on how they get there. So yes, you're going to be spoiled and know that character A and character B are going to end up together in a previous book, but it's their journey that you want to read, right? It's not like it's a mystery that you need to solve. So yeah, absolutely love this one. Highly, highly recommend it. I recommend Sara Richardson, you know, start at the beginning of the series if you want, or if you're just looking for a great cowboy Christmas romance, definitely pick this one up. And the last book that I finished this week and finished in the month of October was Hired by the Mysterious Millionaire by Abby Blake. Guys, I love this book so much. Okay, so of course, another contemporary romance. It is Harlequin Romance number 4652. Published by Harlequin in 2019. This came out in February of this year. Average rating on Goodreads of 4.41 stars, guys. I gave this one 4 stars. For my challenges, of course, this was for my 40 Years of Harlequin project. Sorry about the bad lighting. The sun's kind of coming in and out outside. But anyway, I love this book so much. I am so thrilled that you guys picked this one for me. Because, of course, you know, as if you guys have been watching my channel for a while, you know I do my Harlequin anticipated reads every month. And I have you guys pick a book. And overwhelmingly, the majority in February was for this book. And so this is the story about Evie and Armand. Armand, I believe is his name, is how you pronounce it. And every day, this takes place in Melbourne, Australia. And every day for the past few weeks, these two have met on the train. Not met like they say hi or anything, but she sees him on the train and she's kind of developed this crush on him, which is totally adorable. She is quirky. She is spunky. She's a knitter. I love Evie. I think, you know, I love the story a lot, but I think Evie is what just pushed it up, you know, the notch to being a super fantastic book for me. She is brilliant. She is a gamer. She is a techie, like a tech girl. Not a Trekkie, a techie. She might be a Trekkie. And she works in the IT field. And like I said, she's a knitter. She's always knitting these. She reminded me of my friend Mandy, who always knits these hats with these giant pom-poms on them. Like with, yeah, that's, and she always has a different one on, like a, you know, it kind of calms her down. And her grandfather taught her to knit. How can you not love that? So anyway, enough about Evie. So the two of them keep seeing each other on the train. And then she kind of, in a way, her friend urges her to go and like actually talk to him. So she does, stumbling over her words, kind of making a fool of herself. And, you know, oh, hopefully I never see that guy again. And then she goes for a job interview, and guess who her new boss is? So that's where the story goes from there. Delightful. Loved it. He was very much your typical romance hero in these kind of stories. Very dark, very mysterious, bit of an attitude, you know, very closed off, doesn't really want to open up to a lot of people, whereas Evie's the complete opposite. She's like this little bundle of energy, right? So I highly encourage you guys to read this one. Also a clean story, FYI. I'm trying to remember, sorry, I was kind of flying through the end of this at the hospital when I was walking the halls waiting to go home. So I was kind of reading and walking, which is never a good idea. So I might have, but I'm pretty sure if I remember correctly, there is no adult content in this. And if there is, it's very, very, very minor. Delightful. I absolutely loved it. Highly recommend it. Oh, I need to read more at Allie Blake now, for sure. And I posted on Instagram that I was reading this one, and I was knitting at the time. And she actually wrote back on Instagram and she said, oh, and Evie's a knitter too. And I'm like, yes, that's my favorite part. So yeah, and you know, there's just something about, you know, being able to reach out to authors on Instagram and Twitter, and it's just delightful, and I love it. So yes, highly recommend. Definitely check this one out. So that's it, you guys, for this week. That is all that I read. 6 books, pretty good, I'd say. like I think I said in my Friday reads, I missed reading Pumpkinheads by Rainbow Rowell. I will get to that one next October, so that's kind of a preview of my October TBR for 2020. That one and Season of the Witch by J.W. Auker. Those two are definitely both getting read next year, guaranteed. They will be the first 2 books out of the gate because they have been on my, like, the Rainbow Rowell book is fairly new, but A Season with the Witch I've had for 2 or 3 years now, and every October I keep saying I'm going to read it, and I keep not getting around to it, so I need to do that. But yeah, so anyway, guys, that is it. Please let me know in the comments below if you've read any of these books and what you thought about them, or what was your favorite book that you read this week, because I'd love to know that too. And until my next video, everybody, take care and happy reading. Thank you all so much for watching. Bye, guys.